It's cold in our area. It's like 37 Fahrenheit, 5 or 6 Celsius. So I moved the ride start time to a little later. We're going to start at 8:30. One of my close friends from back in the day, in the early 90s, we got out of touch. He moved to Colorado. His name is TReynolds. He's going to be joining us today. We just hooked up. Troy saw one of the videos on the channel, the ride videos, and reached out. So it was good to reconnect with him because it's been about a generation, 30 years since we've been in touch. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's going to join us for a ride. He's an ambassador of cycling, and he's one of the people that we really blessed to have in this sport. So should be interesting. We're going out in the hills. Should be a lot of fun.
On this ride, I left Northampton, rode into the woodlands, picked up the group at the Alden Village Center. We headed out, taking Honea Egypt Road, going through the Grand Lake Estates into Keenan. We went by Spring Branch Road, all of that's on film, past Gary. We stopped filming after we stopped at the store, went to Dobbins. We had a visit from one of my longtime friends, TReynolds. We went through Dacus. That's all off camera. Took the forest. Came back on Mount Pleasant Road to 1097. At that point, I let the group go before we got into the forest, dropped my pace, and finished my ride solo. Once we got past Montgomery, I finished the route as planned, taking Fishcreek back into the woodlands. It was a very pleasant day. I think you would like the clips we put together for you. This was the last ride we did in 2024 because the weather just really turned foul, a lot of rain, and I don't do group rides when it's wet.
Man, I haven't been in 3 weeks. So,
right.
You know, hold up, wait, Pace.
That's Troy.
No, he hasn't ridden in 3 weeks. I haven't been outside riding in 3 weeks. I've been on my trainer.
Yeah.
You know, 5, 6 days a week. I don't want to. Why I gotta wait on him?
Exactly.
right.
He needs to do the work and catch up.
All right, man.
Let's
We're
roll.
just shooting the
It's time to
breeze.
go.
Done.
Let's do this.
Everybody anyway.
So
Yeah.
Troy
I expected
lives
more
in,
people because it's such a pretty day. I moved the time because of the temperature.
Yeah.
You know, Abby and I chatted a while back, and he said he does the same thing. He'll move his rides to 8:30
Yeah.
when it's very cold. So this is nice. It should be just about 40 now.
Yeah.
40. Our 40 feels like 32 Fahrenheit. About 5 or 6 Celsius, something like that,
There's
because of
nobody on
humidity.
The love
We
page,
have
right?
high
Right?
humidity
No,
in the
nobody's
area.
around.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why Christian's here. He's here to relax.
yeah, really, yeah, right. Yeah, so we, Saturday I rode and, it was all that rain and I picked up 2 guys and we stopped at Taco Corner and Fabian came in and there were 2 or 3 other guys and I wasn't really paying attention. And after I finished the ride, I looked at Fabian's, Strava. It was frickin' Nielsen Paulus with him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I saw some riders out on Saturday.
Okay.
They looked miserable.
It was
I
wet.
was going out of the Hills Parkway. They were coming in. They looked cold. I wanted to call Uber for them. They looked homeless.
Yeah.
Wet and cold.
They were wet and
I
cold.
saw Fabian and his group on Saturday.
That was
We
Nielsen.
saw them in the woodlands leaving, and we were
That's
going
long.
the other way.
In
Yep.
the EF jersey.
Yep. That
it
was
a
him.
real deal.
There was like 5 of them in that group or so.
Yep.
Yep. I saw them.
Yeah, Nielsen Paulus is in the area. I mean, he lives here and he's doing some of the local rides from time to time.
Yeah.
She on Facebook.
Troy taking a picture of the group.
You know what's funny? I remember your dad. It's been a long time. Remember?
They still together.
You, my brother. You can do a little bit, and then we can mount it
He's
later.
messing around.
I brought 2 back.
He's ahead of that.
All right.
We gotta get the Purple Queen's bike.
Yeah. So right up to Taco, and, we were about ready to leave, and Fabian
Here we go.
And one of the guys said, Oh my gosh.
That was my way of getting everybody going and then going to the back.
Laura has a new frame that was replaced by Cervelo under warranty. We're leaving the Alden Village Center in the Woodlands, Texas. This ride, we have a longtime friend of mine, Troy Marcus Reynolds. He rode professionally for a short period of time. We got out of touch. He moved to Colorado in the early 90s. And he's discovered me again through social media. He saw a video. So he's visiting here. It's a guy named James Earl that he's friends with. Has been here before. He's also here from Dallas.
Just working.
Came to see
Just working,
Troy.
getting things going.
Catching up with Paul. I hadn't seen
Yeah.
Paul. Paul's been busy doing other stuff. That's what we're talking about.
30 years, man.
30
Almost
years.
30 years since I saw Troy.
93, 94.
Wow.
Yeah. Before then, we used to race together out here. We did a few races together.
Yeah, Troy was just starting out in the early 90s, and he was very ambitious. And so he moved to Colorado. He hasn't raced in a number of years, like 5 years recently.
Okay.
He's no longer riding professionally,
Everything's there. I was looking.
and he just rides for fun. He said he rides just
Once he moved to Colorado,
enough to eat whatever he
I
wants.
see.
So Troy's on Instagram as well. So it was good to hook up with him. So I'm following him on Instagram to kind of stay
Okay,
in
hold on,
touch.
guys.
Hey, hold on.
So we're gonna stop here because James Earl, who came from Dallas to see Troy, they're friends as well. They met on the racing scene. His computer, the attachment for his light, is a little
Yeah, I
wonky. You don't want to
remember
drop. You don't
he
want to
came
drop
here
those
once
lights.
to ride with us.
That's what I'm telling Paul.
With another guy.
Yeah.
They came here once before.
Laura knows him from California.
Okay.
Yep. You said he rides everywhere.
Is he good? Okay. Yeah, let's put my light back on.
Oh,
So he's riding ahead.
Well, just stop and
What
do
happened
it.
with your Garmin? I have a Varia. I think that's what he has.
Let them know.
You got to take care of those things because they're pricey. And I've come across a rider who dropped his because the attachment that goes on the seat post somehow it wasn't. Well, they got this little rubber band that you use. If you don't put it
Take
on
your time,
carefully, it can snap off. So that's what he's dealing with. You need to make sure your light is secure because these things are pricey. You don't want to spend several $100s and then something drops on the road. So the guy was on the side of a highway, 2978, looking for his light. And so I slowed down out on a ride to ask him if everything was okay. And then he told me, and it's hard to find because he did not know when it actually dropped. So can you imagine? And he told me that he was going to go back and get his car. But, it's even harder to see from a car. I don't believe he found it because if you don't know where it fell, it can fall and roll off the road in the grass or whatever, because there's a shoulder there like this, a little smaller. And that's where he was riding.
on it, but yeah, I had to take this one off the other bike and put it on this one.
Let me see.
I'm good.
Is it tight enough?
Yeah, it's good.
So that's his light there. That's that radar. I like that light. I've gotten accustomed to riding with it. I like it, especially when I ride solo, because it'll let you know anything that's coming behind you. So, I've had a lot of breaks in my training over the winter. Been busy with other stuff. And so now I'm finally getting to where I have more consistency over the last month. And that's what my engine needs. So you have to listen to yourself when you get with the group. Don't feel like you need to dig too much if you're still going to lose time. And Troy talked about it on this ride. I don't know if the guys remember. What he was saying was when he would be racing, if you're not going well and you're already 5 minutes down, there's no point in you digging just to be 4 minutes 50 down. Just let it go and wait for another opportunity another time. Because you have a finite amount of energy. You don't want to squander it.
You live in the Dallas area, right?
That's James Earl.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the last time you were here, with one of your buddies.
Yeah, the big
So
guy.
on this ride, I was,
we had a flight
I
coming
got a
home.
little, how can I say? I wouldn't use the word anxious. I got excited and I pushed harder
Let's go.
than I had planned. Just to see, you know. But basically, I realized that, oh, I wasn't helping my body. That's the guys over there waiting for us. So when you're with a group, it's kind of hard to avoid rolling with the pace, like when they're pushing hard. Unless your plan is to work really hard that day, sometimes you do have to let the group go because that training may not help you if you're overreaching too much based on your condition or the work that you've done.
53. So for me, what I do is
That's Troy Marcus Reynolds on the right. Troy said he was a professional for a short time. He was very ambitious as he moved to Colorado. He had gone to Austin, where I used to live. He used to come visit. And he decided the Colorado scene was better for cycling. So he went there and competed professionally for a short time. So now he's back. He's got his own little club. I think he called it Troy Reynolds Roofing Cycling. It's on his jersey that he's wearing. He's a very experienced rider, and he kind of knows when he goes on rides, he has his own plan and everything. So he crashed many years ago in a race, and he hurt his back. And I found out by reading his Instagram. That's Mike Bradbury. That's James Earl on the right from Dallas. That's Loretta, the pirate, El Pirata, La Pirata in Spanish. El Pirata, I think it's Italian. And that's Dan Jaworski. So these are the hardcore guys. I mean, it's cold, so we didn't get a big turnout, but this is my thing. I tried a week before this ride, I posted our ride on a public board called Chasing Watts, because I'd gotten a lot of direct messages from people saying, oh, the group's too fast, blah, blah, blah. But they don't show up. So I'm not going to do that anymore because it takes a lot of time to post the ride in multiple places to try to accommodate everybody. But no one even signed up for the slower levels. So my attitude is I'm going to cater the ride to who shows up. And the reason these guys are fast, when I say these guys, I mean this group, is because they're riding. You're not going to get fast if you're not riding, period. So the people who are not riding or not training properly, not doing the work, want to complain, oh, we hear the group is too fast, so we're scared to come. Well, if you're scared to ride your bike, you're going to stay slow. You want to get fast, you got to ride with faster riders from time to time. And you want to keep up with the rider. You heard Troy in the parking lot. If I'm riding my trainer 5 or 6 days a week, why should I wait for the person who's been sitting on the couch watching Seinfeld? You know, get on your trainer, put the TV in front of it, watch Seinfeld and spin. Get yourself in some kind of decent condition. So, you know, Troy is nowhere near his racing weight or anything, at least when I knew him. And so over the years, he's gotten into other things. You know, your time is finite. Family, friends, business, that kind of stuff. But he still loves cycling. There's nothing wrong with that. And you have to recognize that in your mind that, okay, I'm no longer competing like I used to. So you don't need to flog your body when you're out of condition. You need to know when to check your ego and stay within your range based on what you've been doing. So his plan is, as he communicated to me, that's what we're talking about with catching up. He communicated to me that he's hoping that in a few years, he may be fit enough to start racing again.
I would have wanted to do Whitehall.
The primary thing I focus on is making sure my bike fits me well, and you should do the same, because if your bike doesn't fit you, you don't look forward to riding. If it's uncomfortable, you're not going to ride. You shouldn't be getting saddle sores when you're riding. That means something's off with your position. I don't use chamois cream or anything like that. I've talked about it before on the channel, unless I'm riding in wet weather, and only if I'm going to get wet, which I don't. I don't ride with a group when it's wet. I put on my mud guards, so I stay dry. Because with a jacket and the proper equipment, you don't get wet or dirty because the water from your wheels are not getting on you when you have mud guards on your bike or fenders or whatever, you know. So that's what's important. But I don't ride when it's wet and very cold. Let's say below 40. That's a bad combination. I don't want to expose myself to any kind of, illness or whatever. So on those crappy days like that, I just do the trainer and do some, break it up, maybe hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half in the afternoon. Then it doesn't feel like you did a big block on the trainer. But you gotta get yourself in shape before you go and start playing, so to speak, with the group. And you gotta realize that, hey, I'm not there, you let them go. So right now we're just at a conversational pace, and later on you'll see it gets hot and heavy, and we back off and we regroup. And then later on we found out that this bike that Troy is riding had been stored. It wasn't the one he was training on. He goes between Colorado and Texas. He has a home here in southwest Houston, more south, a place called, I think it was Missouri, not Missouri City, it's Sugar Land, I think, if I remember correctly. Anyway, on the southwest side of town, I think it's Sugar Land or Missouri City. They have a home there. And so they spend time there sometimes. So he happens to be here for the holiday. That's why he's joining this ride. It was nice to hook up with him. You can see how smooth he is in front of Mike Bradbury. See how he's holding his line by the white line? That comes with working on your skill. Don't just get on your bike and go ride. When you get on your bike, be working on something. Focus on the little things. Clipping in, clipping out, braking smoothly, holding a straight line. Because we found out that one of our riders that rides with us was having trouble clipping in, and his foot got stuck in the front wheel and he fell heavily. I think a week ago there was a century ride for the New Year's Day, on New Year's Day, and he hurt his shoulder. And an injury can set you back. It's just so, those little things, clipping in, clipping out, dodging potholes smoothly, that kind of stuff, all of that plays a factor. So don't just ride a lot. When you ride a lot, work on your skills, because everything is important. I've talked about it before. It doesn't matter who you're riding around. You see James Earl, what he's doing is he was caught in a gear bigger than he wanted, and so he held the front brake, lifted the bike and shifted and turned his leg to get the chain to shift to a lower gear that he wanted. Those are the little things you got to work on. Don't take anything for granted. Clipping in, clipping out is important. So when you're clipping in, don't put too much force on the pedal. If it doesn't get through, the leg that's clipped in, go ahead and just kind of roll through the intersection and then take the time to get that other leg back in. Because if you put too much force, sometimes your leg can slip. And if it slips when you're not expecting it, it can cause you to lose control and lose balance. So, work on your skills. That's very, very important. That's what I mean when I say we train. We don't just ride. I'm not sure what they're talking about, but I think Laura's talking about something Dan is wearing.
Well, let me keep going and see if I get you guys.
So this week that I finally got around to doing this video, this was our last ride that we did before the new year. And I'm finally getting the chance to do the video because I've been busy with the holidays. And this is the time of year to spend more time with your family. I mean, I ride a lot and I'm always gone. So I didn't feel like I missed anything. It does affect your fitness. So the next video I'm going to release, I only stayed with the group probably about almost half of the ride. And I ended up doing a shorter route because the weather changed on us. They did not forecast rain, and we get out and it started raining. This is the next one coming. I'll try to release it later this week. So sometimes you have to make changes to your plan based on the weather. There are times when I go out, I want to do a short ride and it's just beautiful and I feel good, and I do a longer ride. So there's no reason why you can't shorten the ride. So avoid making your saddle so high because you saw a pro rider or somebody and it looked that way. Your saddle needs to fit your body. And if you can't do it yourself, get a professional fitter to help you. Otherwise, you end up going for decades riding in an inefficient position and you can injure yourself. So if you're getting little pains around your knee or something, I'm not talking about muscle soreness. I'm talking about the joints, painful aching or whatever. There may be an issue. There's always something. Don't ignore, what's going on with you. the ride after this one, the next one that's the one we did after the New Year, our first New Year's ride. This week we got a cold front that is affecting, this is January 6th, affecting most of the country. It's very cold here. It's sunny. It's dry, but it's just really cold. And it's very breezy. So unless you're going to cover your face and put on all kinds of stuff, it's just so much crap to wear when you go out. I don't mind it so much, especially on days where I want to do volume. I do have the proper gear to stay warm. So you need to dress properly and you need to know where you are. So for me, I'm about maybe a couple of weeks, I would say 2 to 3 weeks away from where I start fine-tuning my fitness. It's still early in the season. And so I'm going to start doing more group rides that I can attend at least early in the week. Because during the holidays, I was busy with my business and family. And our business, the cycling business, is very cyclical, so you kind of have to adjust. I don't only do one kind of service. I do bike fits. I teach people how to ride. I coach. So I stay busy because I have different services that I offer. So we got a good chance to catch up. You know, Troy. When Troy was on the racing scene, Troy was just starting out when I was already competing. We did a race in Seabrook. And we talked about it. I mentioned it in the parking lot. That's the one I remember. Me in the area near called Kemah, Texas. And then shortly after that, I moved to Austin, and so he would come up there to visit, and we'd go out and ride in the hills. And then he decided to check out Colorado and got an opportunity to ride professionally. So he pursued that. So it's just really great to catch up with him. So he met this guy in the blue, James Earl.
You're gonna go with the Honea
on the racing scene.
Yeah.
So it's clear. I had already on clip, but it was clear when I got to the corner, so I let everybody know we're going to be turning. As soon as we turn on Honea Egypt, I'm going to mention to Troy, because Troy would ask, are we singling up? And that comes from his experience. You know, that's because we're talking, but once we turn on Honea Egypt, it's time to ride. And so I told him, yeah, we're going to go single file. You will see us single up. So I go ahead and just start. I take the first pull for a bit. So we'll have a yellow left turn here. Basically, you yield. And that's what we're waiting for these cars. I think there's a car that stops for us to turn. I don't know if it's on this one. Yeah. So he actually gave up the right of way because I probably had the yellow signal. The arrow changed to green. It's an unprotected left when it's blinking yellow. We have a lot of that in our area, in the Woodlands and North Spring. So right here, we're going to go single file. Troy asked, and I let him know. It's time to start riding. Conversation we've been waiting. And you hear him mention we're singling up. That's Troy Marcus Reynolds on the left. Troy has always been smooth on the bike from the time he started cycling. So he said that he had a crash years ago and broke his back. So it's good to see him back on the bike, you know. But he's been, you know, I mentioned it earlier. He said, I ride just enough to eat whatever I want. And that's another way to look at it if you're no longer competing. You know, he's a former pro. He's been there, done that. So he said, he's just riding for fun now, you know. And cycling is fun. That's why I ride. But I do like to push myself. I am very competitive. So I like to push myself when I'm in the mood. So I get a lot of questions through direct messages of how to improve your FTP and this and that. There is no one formula. It is based on how much time you have, how long you've been training, where you are. There's so many variables. And the thing is that I get questions from people that I'm not coaching that I don't have a history on. So I don't like to give answers without having a background on the person. For me, for the kind of engine I have, I raise my FTP with volume. That's what my body prefers. It doesn't mean that's the only way I do it. That is my preferred way. So I mix it up, meaning when I'm going easy, I go easy. So that's why a lot of times I will let the group go if I'm not planning on pushing. So I pull off the front. But when you go hard, it doesn't need to be medium. When you go hard, you got to flog yourself and go really hard for whatever you're planning. But it shouldn't be a high percentage.
Brother. Yes, sir.
That's Paulie Long guy. So, you know, avoid going somewhat hard on your hard days. That means you're probably tired or you're not in the mood. So when it's time to go hard and you don't feel like it, go easy. Take in the sights. But when you decide you want to go hard, go very hard. Even if you're just doing one interval of quality, it's better than going medium 5 times. I mean, what's the point of that? You gotta go very hard. That's what it takes. You don't need to outlast everyone. You just need to beat the right people. If you're a competitor, I don't care if you can ride 300 kilometers, 200 kilometers. If our race is only 80 kilometers, I just need to get across the finish line in 80 kilometers. I don't need to do 300 kilometers. Because in the shorter races or criteriums, or road racers, endurance is baggage. That's kind of, you know, how you refer to it. So if your group is only doing 40 miles, then you probably don't need a whole lot of hours to play. You just need the right kind of recipe in your training. That's what you need to focus on. And then you need group smarts. You need to know when to work. You need to know how to sit in the wheels. You work on those skills I talked about. You should be able to relax. But it all starts with you having a good fit. Because if you don't have a good fit, you're inefficient anyway. Probably wasting watts trying to find a position on the bike that's comfortable. Because you can't relax. Because it hurts under there. You don't like where you're sitting. Invest the time to get your bike comfortable. That's where it starts. And you enjoy everything else. So we have, I made a video about our Spring Creek Greenway. I have been using it recently. It's fairly close to my house, as you saw. If those of you saw the video, if you didn't, I'll see if I can put a link here in this point of the video for it. But anyway, it's the start of the Greenway is 5 kilometers from my house, 3 miles. It takes about 12 minutes in zone 1 for me to ride to that start. So it's very convenient. So I ride 5 kilometers or 3 miles, and I don't have to deal with cars for, say, 75K. You know, so all I'm dealing with are people walking their dogs. You know, it's a multi-use trail, and then unfortunately, some of these geniuses that own pets let their dog take a dump in the middle of the bike path. I mean, I'm talking on the yellow line, literally. There's dog crap there. So when you're riding, you got to watch for that because you don't want to roll through that. Which is kind of stupid when you think about it, because those people that are walking their dogs live near that spot where that dog took a dump. That means they're going to come back and walk by that dump again. Because the path goes 40K one way. They're not walking 40K. It goes by the back of these neighborhoods. It goes through parks, multiple parks. So the people that live near there are coming and walking their dogs. Well, if you drop trash where you live, you have to live with the trash because you're going to see it. I'm on a bicycle moving at 18 miles an hour. I'm going to see it for a lot less time than you who's walking at 2 miles an hour, let's say. So it makes no sense to let your dog poop where you're walking. That's like taking the dog to the park and letting him poop where you sit. You know, and you know, I don't understand that. Just because no one's around, you shouldn't have to do the right thing only when you're being watched. I mean, really? Come on, man. So we have to be dodging dog poop on the trail. It's like a lane like this. It's the size of one lane. Then, and they don't have it striped the whole way. But there's dog poop on the trail. When they got grass on the side, that dog could have gone in the grass so it can decompose there. And these Yahoo owners, because there are no dogs running free on the path. They have to have them on a leash. So the owner's there, just that nobody's around, so they just let the dog do whatever. And then the next day they walk that dog, I bet you the poop is there. You're bringing your dog to the same place. That's like kind of like throwing garbage in your living room. I just shake my head, Who's got time to police that crap? It's 40 kilometers of a trail. Nobody's got time to be looking for people, whether they're picking up after their dogs. You want to have a dog, you don't need to pick up after him. Put him in the woods. The trail goes through the woods. Let him poop in the woods. How are you going to let him poop on the road that you're walking on? So it just boggles the mind, Just kind of shake my head. The crap people do. Same thing like drivers throwing trash out of their car. The glass that we encounter when we cycle on the road, they're not coming from people walking. Who do you see walking? It's from drivers who are throwing bottles out of their car. Because it would make too much sense to take their trash home or to a service station when they buy gas and put it in the container. They think somebody else will come from somewhere else to clean it up. Then they want to complain about paying for public services. If they got to clean it up, they got to charge us. All of us pay for that. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, but it's just annoying. Although you get, and another thing on the trail is you get these people walking on the lane like this, trees on both sides. They spread out 3 abreast like it's their private road. I was riding one time and a rider in front of me buzzed one of them. And the guy said, well, you didn't say anything. And he's like, it's not my responsibility. I just laugh as I came by. And he's right. How you going to spread out and block the whole road because you chat? I mean, work on one side of the road. That's James Earl. I asked him if he was okay because he pulled off. I didn't realize he had been pulling. I thought he was just drifting to the back. And I asked him if he was okay. He said, yeah. So we're already going harder than I wanted to. I'm in my tempo area approaching sweet spot. I didn't really want to ride like that. I hadn't been doing much. I've been riding the trail from time to time. Just been busy with other stuff. So I would end up letting them know to keep going. When we get into the neighborhood later on, tell them, I'm going to back off for a while. I end up hooking up back with them because somebody stopped at a service station to use the restroom. It is very cold for us, 8 Celsius. We're below 50 Fahrenheit, and with the wind, it feels like maybe 45 Fahrenheit. It feels very cold when it gets cold here because we don't stay cold very long. So your blood doesn't get thick, so to speak. That's a phrase I like to use, but basically you don't acclimate to it. There's Troy. That's Juan. There's Paul Dan Jaworski. Paulie Long guy has the camera, and I'm rolling through. So right now I'm not having a whole lot of fun because I really did not want to go near. I'm at the bottom of sweet spot. I didn't want to do threshold work today. I wanted to do low effort, but you can't control it. When you get with the group, you try to stay in the draft or whatever, but this road is like a slight grade. You can see 2%. The whole time you're going up, so you got to work to stay with the group. So in a few kilometers, probably about 5 kilometers or 3 miles, I'm going to back off the pace, and I'll let them know to keep going. Paul knows when I back off, I'm not having any problems. Don't wait. Just keep going. I know what I'm doing. I know the way. I know this area really well. Both of us, we know this area well. We spend a lot of time out here in all kinds of weather. So if you have a week where, let's say, you do a heavy load and then you're planning on doing a group ride, if the group ride is, let's say, Saturday, that Thursday ride that you're doing either by yourself or whatever, you need to make sure that you're not killing yourself 2 days before. It needs to be lighter. I'm talking no more than zone 2. Now, if you ride with a group, you're not going to control it. You're going to end up doing higher intervals or whatever. So you got to recover harder, meaning self-massage, stretch, whatever you got to do. Because if you come to the group ride on Saturday with heavy legs, it's not a whole lot of fun. So you got to really know, okay, what's coming up? How hard should I work? You want to give yourself a minimum of 24 to 40, I would say 48 hours of recovery, just to be sure. And then that way you can really push if you choose to. Because you go to a ride tired, you're not going to, even if you go to a race, you don't go to a race tired. You got to treat your harder rides the same way. Back off 2 days before. Either take the day off 2 days before, and then the day before the ride, you just go for a short ride where you kind of rev up your engine. You know, do a few short efforts, but the rest of the time just comfortable, just easy. Zone 1, zone 2, to kind of get your body ready for what's to come. And then on that day with the group, you can let it all hang out. Because if you're not fresh enough, you can't really push as hard. So I was doing a four-day block this week, and this was like, I think, day 3 of my training. So my legs were okay. They didn't feel great or anything. So use your analyses of your FTP, your functional threshold power, or your lactic threshold to focus on what you need to work on depending on the time of year. Because what it comes down to is, as you start to push hard and you go up, let's say, short hills or whatever, or even longer climbs, it's your FTP, it's your watts per kilo that matter. If you're a big rider, you're not going to be able to keep up with somebody who can do, say, 5 or 6 watts per kilo for a period of time if you can't do yours for that long. Because depending on how much you weigh, you got to work harder than that person to approach the same. Your 5 watts per kilo is a higher power output than a lighter rider 5 watts per kilo. So unless you've been training like that, there's no point in you killing yourself until you've done the work to prepare for that. You see how I'm pulling up? That's the way your bike's supposed to fit you to where you're not shifting all over the saddle, that you're efficient. So a lot of riders will have trouble in the group and they say, oh, I think I need to change my wheels, or I think I need, oh, it's not the equipment. It's your training and your fitness. Unless your bike is 10 pounds heavier than everybody else's, it's not that big a deal. You're not climbing Alpe d'Huez here. So don't start relying on equipment. Focus on you and yourself and your training and how much rest you're getting, what kind of structure you're following. Most riders neglect rest. They just ride. So even though my heart rate is very low here, 134, my legs hurt. And I'm like, okay, you know, I've been doing a lot of work. And I've been inconsistent over the last, up until this ride, I was not training consistently. My blocks were sporadic. I'd get a ride here and there, and I get a few days strung together, but I wasn't on my plan, and I know that. So when you're not on your plan, your body cannot process anaerobic efforts, so to speak.
All right.
Paul was asking Laura if she wanted to slip in. So I know that my legs are not firing, and I feel it. You got to pay attention to yourself. There's no point in you pedaling squares, or you're not improving yourself. So I know I need to back off soon. So I think when we turn onto the Hills Parkway, I'm going to let them know, okay, I'm going to back off. Then I'll get caught at the gate. So on these clips, we're using Paulie Longa's speed to make sure, because after I pull out of the pace line, they were ahead of me, you know, quite a bit. I got caught at the gate. I think they bayed the gate. I had to wait for a car to come. And I really didn't think I was going to see them until the first stop. But it ended up happening that somebody stopped at a store, and then I saw them. So you'll see me sit back in as we're push spring. I think this is where I may be pulling out of the pace line. I continue to follow for a bit. I think I continue to follow until we get to the Hills Parkway, which is coming up. So starting later in January, I'll start running the power meter again on these films. Right now, I'm using my old winter pedals. Well, I don't call it winter pedals. My alloy pedals, the Shimano 7810. I love those pedals. They're tough, low maintenance. You see how smooth Troy is? His bike fits him, and you just have to. You're not supposed to be fighting the bike. You move your leg through the rotation, so you use all the muscles in your leg, not just your quads. And you can see there's no rocking or anything. That's what it takes. Focus on your fit. The bike needs to fit you.
Guys, keep going. I'm gonna back up a bit, my brother.
All right.
I'm gonna back up. Keep going.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling them. I'm gonna back up. My legs are just protesting. They're just sore. They're tired. You know, I have too much spotty training in December. So the heart rate numbers, the speed, everything you're seeing here is Paulie Longa. I don't think I've gotten my heart rate near 200 beats per minute. I don't know how he's doing that, but I don't know if it's, I think he said that his heart sometimes the heart rate will just flutter up and then settle back down. But right now it's showing 198. The most I've ever seen on mine in recent years was like 188, something like that. Everybody's different. They're not going full gas, but they're pushing. So I dropped the effort to zone 2 through here. And I'm riding by myself. I can see them in the distance. I just hold my pace. So Paul went to Colorado a few years back, I think, and had some challenges with his cardiac output. And he had to get like I think an EKG and stuff like that, you know. So he's dealing with that. And so he's had these issues where he'll get a shot, I think, and then it'll cause him to have all these side effects like being very cold and shivery, depending on what. So all of those kind of, so people have different things going on. And that's why I've always made the comment that you come to a group ride, you don't know what's going on with other people. but he knows to listen to himself all the time. You got to listen to your body. I think Troy over the years has put on at least 15, 20 pounds more than when he used to compete. I think he said he's like 190 something. He probably used to be 170, if I remember. I don't remember I was talking about weight back then. We just did what we needed to do. But regardless of what has happened, you over the years, the experience you gain, you can't lose that. So a lot of times you ride with your experience. Even when you're not in top condition, your experience can get you through some difficult spots. This is where they're approaching the gate down here. So they hit the gate. When I get to the gate is closed. So I did some U-turns waiting for a car to come trigger it, because I'm not climbing over that fence to come to the keypad on the other side of the gate. So now that the new year has started, I've done my best to structure things to where I should be able to do at least a couple of group rides, meaning our ride and maybe one group ride during the week. That's pretty much all I have time for. But the rest of the time I'm going to ride solo.
You have? So you can see Paul's heart rate is over 200 beats a minute. Shoot. I used to see that when I was in my upper 20s. Yeah. You pedal with your legs. You pay attention to how you feel. These guys are still pushing. Look at Paul's 212. So for me, I will probably be like 172 or something like that. My heart does not beat that quickly. So Paul must have a different kind of motor. Bye-bye. That was James Earl drifting to the back. So for me, when I'm going very hard, my heart rate would be 172, 175, might be 177. And then when I'm really time trialing, I try to push it in the 180s. That's about, you know, my red line's like 178, something like that, which is pretty high. That's my threshold. So, but I have to work to get to where I'm developing power and I'm smooth. That's what you call pushing the ceiling. So you want to determine what your ranges are, as opposed to just looking at heart rate. You got to know what it means. This number, what zone am I in? Is this where I need to be? How does it feel? You know, all of that matters. It looks like Christian up there. I think Mike Bradbury just let him go off the front. That's what you have to do instead of breaking up the group because somebody wants to sprint for the corner. I think I sound like that garbage truck that was behind them pulling into that area is behind them. So they're turning left here, and where I'm going to hook up with them is probably about 5 kilometers to the left on Keenan.
No, he's not here. He's far back.
That's the truck, that garbage truck that pulled into the yard there.
We're stopping at Mariah Road. The other end of Spring Road.
I'm gonna go ahead real quick. I gotta pee real bad.
Oh, the old man's got to pee.
Let's do that before you left.
You said I was okay as you said pee. Yeah, right, yeah. Same here. Damn it. Alright. You guys want to stop at the end of Keenan Cutoff? Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where I end up hooking up with them because we hadn't planned to stop there, but because the weather is like it is,
Let's go there.
people need to use the restroom.
Slow down, yeah.
You slow down?
Yeah. Yeah.
So here they're approaching the Keenan store, and that's what Dan is asking. I was stopping. They're going to use the restroom. So this is where I come across them. I was actually going to continue going because we weren't supposed to stop here, and then somebody waved at me, and I saw that they were there. And so the next film we'll see where Paul restarts the camera when we're going on Springbridge Road, which is off of 149 there. So they stopped here for a pit stop, so to speak. And what somebody was saying, as soon as that guy mentioned he wanted to pee, and he felt like he wanted to pee. So what you're seeing with Paul's heart rate is normal for him that you saw back there, over 200 beats. He told me that a cardiologist had checked it and everything has been monitored, and that's just what his body does. It goes up there and then it stabilizes. So that's just the way his engine runs, which is a good thing, because in that, it's a good thing for having a heart rate monitor. You need to know what's going on with your internals, as opposed to just a power meter that says, oh, I'm putting out this number of watts. That is why at the top levels, they're still using heart rate monitors. You need to know, because sometimes when you're fatigued, not sometimes, if you're tired, you have a different FTP than when you're fully rested. Period. That's just the way the body works. So when you're very tired, your zone 2 is different than when you're fresh. All of that matters. That's why you have to listen to yourself. That's why sometimes you're like, man, I'm not really going that hard. Why do I feel so crappy? That's a day where you're probably tired. Or sometimes you go for a ride and you just can't drive your heart rate up. You're tired. Don't fight it.
Oh, you have to go back, Troy.
I'm letting Paul know. This is after our stop in I guess Dobbins, kind of taco corner number 2. Troy turned around because his battery on the bike that he hadn't been using frequently for the shifter, the Di2, failed, so he was stuck in one gear. I had noticed that he had just been on a small chain ring, but then it got to the point where he couldn't even use the gears in the back, so he decided to turn back. And he knew the way because he had downloaded the route. That's another reason I do the route. So even when you're not familiar with the area, like he's visiting, and even when he's in Houston, he doesn't ride on this side of town. He rides a lot in the southwest side, I think, when he's here. So I don't think he's been out here that frequently, so he used the route, but he was able to go back on his own. So what I was saying was that you have to listen to your body. Those numbers don't drive everything. Feel overcomes all of that. If you go out to go ride and you're supposed to push hard that day, and on the second interval you feel like you're dying and you're supposed to do 5, maybe that day you just let it go, drop it down into a lower zone and finish your ride, because maybe your body's not ready, because it does make a difference in how you feel. So if your threshold power is supposed to be something and you can't get there, that means that stuff going on with you, maybe you're tired. Cycling is not the only stress in your life. You're not a monk living at the base of a hill where everybody cooks your meals and pay all your bills. You're dealing with other stuff in life. Most of us have jobs, all of that factors. But listen to yourself. You feel good, by all means, flog yourself. You're not feeling so good, take more rest. So I had slowed down because I just had tired legs on this ride. Just, I'm on my feet a lot. Not that it's the only reason. There's a lot going on, so you have to listen to yourself. It's not a whole lot of fun when you're pushing and you're not rested. You just dig a deep hole. It can lead to overtraining. And it saps your enthusiasm for the next workout. I asked Paul if the camera was on. So once we hit the one of my favorite roads, Johnson Road, I back off the pace, just kind of drop the pace, because I wanted to finish this ride and not beat myself up too much. So I'm giving I've already got some consistency as I do this film. So from mid-December till now, I've had consistent weeks of training. So my body's acclimating, and I'm trying to do my best to keep my schedule to where it's not so much the volume, but just the consistency is there. So my body can kind of get ready for harder efforts, especially as the weather gets better around March. So Paul has assured me that the heart rate numbers that we saw earlier, the 2-something, he said that happens when the rides get fast. And he's gotten accustomed to it, and he has been checked. They've done all the necessary stress tests and so forth. That's just something his body goes through. So his 212 might be my 178 or something like that, So then it stabilizes after a while. But right now, it's at a more reasonable range. So get to know yourself, get to know what your body does and what you're comfortable with, so you can pay attention to, okay, I'm not feeling so good, what's going on with me, that kind of stuff. We're on a road called Mount Mariah Road that's heading towards the Highway 146. The FM 1486, not 146, 1486. We're in northwest Montgomery County heading towards Dobbing, Texas. This rider here in all black is Christian. Christians like to ride fast. He usually rides with more in them, but I think for the holidays, the group, people are traveling and doing different things, so he couldn't find a group. Riding with the group makes riding a little easier, not just because of drafting, just having that company, it makes things move along faster. So whenever you can get with a group, it's a good thing if it meets the objective of your session. That's very important, especially riders that are coached. There are some sessions where the coach would say you do this workout by yourself because you need certain intervals of recovery that the group may not allow you to get, all of that. And then there are certain sessions where the coach will say do a group ride as hard as you feel. And that's, ride as hard as you feel, meaning you go to that group ride and you've been working, you've been doing other stuff by yourself, and you go to that group ride and you're tired, you let them go. I'm not going to stay at the front very long. My legs are not cooperating. They're tight, just tired. I pull for a little bit and then I get off. Because I'm going kind of slow. It's like 15 miles an hour here. 25K. So I'm going to pull off. My legs are not cooperating today. They're tired. So. And because of my discipline, I slept well after this ride. If I had pushed too much, it probably would have kept me up. Because when you overtrain, you can't rest. Your body is just out of whack. It's very important. How you feel after a ride says a lot about whether you're doing the right thing, whether your training is heading in the right direction. Very important. I wear most of my black kit in the winter. When it's cold, I want to absorb all the rays that the sunshine has for me. So in the winter, whenever possible, I wear black. In the summer, I wear the different colors, the lighter colors. Celsius, so we're about 55 or so. 55 Fahrenheit. And out here, it probably feels like 45. So by being disciplined and resting or letting the group go when you need for them to go, what ends up happening is you keep yourself in a position to where you can meet your next training session or part of your regimen. Because if you flog yourself the wrong way and you don't recover, you can't really train. You're too tired. You have to rest. That's what they mean when they say you dig a hole. If you go too hard before you're ready, you're setting yourself backward. We call it unproductive training. Remember that. So that's what I meant when I mentioned earlier that, okay, if you got a group ride that you like, then do your hard efforts several days before the group ride. Closer to the group ride, you back off, you rest up. Same thing you would do for a race, like a small peak, so to speak, so that you can enjoy the group ride. There's no point going to a group ride tired if it's important to you. There are a lot of riders that will come to our ride and just ride with us out of the area, and as soon as we get out, they say, I'm doing my own thing or whatever. They just wanted a little bit of company for a bit, and they go off and do whatever they had planned to do. That's one thing you could do too. Don't feel like, oh, I started a ride, I gotta finish it, unless it's meeting your need, and that's a goal. If you need that ride to push you, because a lot of riders will use the group ride to accomplish certain efforts they're trying to do. That's always good. You always work harder when you're chasing people and stuff like that. So that's the way it is, especially for you aspiring racers. Not only does it push you, it teaches you how to ride in close proximity to other cyclists, which you got to do in any mass start event. even a Grand Fondo. So Laura is riding very smoothly. It's not very hard here. Just steady. 22, 23 miles an hour. So when you do it right, and you get home from a ride, whether by yourself or with the group, you're able to eat right away. You know, your appetite is not suppressed. You're able to sleep well that night, and then the next day, you're enthused about getting into your next workout, your next session, whatever it may be. When you can't get out the door, something's up. It doesn't necessarily mean you've overcooked yourself. It could mean you're coming down with something, or other stresses in your life are affecting you to, well, okay, maybe this workout, I'm going to change it. I'm going to not go hard. I'm going to go easy. When there's a doubt, go easy. When you're feeling good, then you go very hard on your hard day. Because going hard when you're not feeling well will set you back. Remember that. So whenever there's a doubt, take it easy. Because a little, and I'm going to quote Greg LeMond from his book, Complete Book of Bicycling. He said, a little extra endurance on a free day can't hurt. And that has stayed with me for decades. Because what will hurt you is pushing too much, too hard. It takes longer for your body to recover from that. But keeping it easy, you can do forever. But that shouldn't be your only training if you want to go fast or bomb hills or do whatever it is, if that's your goal. But if your goal is just to ride, say, long distances at a sedate pace, then yeah, you do that in your training. But you got to hit the other zones if you're going to ride in those zones. It's like a cocktail. I always treat intensity like seasoning, just a dash. So when I go hard and I have a good ride and I roll hard and I feel really great, I make sure the next 2 sessions are easy, just to keep myself in check. Because it's easy to go and want to bomb the next day again. Gotta let your body absorb the training. I hope the camera picks up Laura again. You can see how much lower Laura is on her bike versus Christian here. Every rider has a different position. And Laura is not actually in her most aerodynamic position right now. I think she's on the hoods. And she's kind of sitting, but she still sits very aerodynamically versus the average rider. She slices through the air. So after I pull off the pace, when they get on there, you see Christian pull. He stands up on the climb like that, and then at the top of the climb, he pulls off to get a chance to recover when they get on Johnson Road. So Paul's, like Paul said, his heart rate has stabilized now. So he said, early in the ride when we're going very fast, the heart rate will fluctuate way up and then it stabilizes. And that's been sorted out, so he's not worried about it or anything, but he had to go see a cardiologist to make sure there weren't issues going on. Because one time he went to Colorado, he had trouble breathing in that thin air. And I think that's what alerted him, oh, okay, let me get this checked out. So you can see how few riders there are on our ride today. And this is why I said earlier, I am going to accommodate the people who come out to ride, okay? These guys are fast because they ride consistently. They ride throughout the year, you know, regardless of the weather. I mean, even like as I'm narrating this ride from before the new year, the next ride I'm going to release in a few days after this, it was rainy, overcast. It wasn't supposed to rain, but it got drizzly. The same riders are showing up, so I'm going to cater the ride to the people who come out to ride. If the other people who are complaining, oh, the ride's too fast, if they show up, then we can split up. But people who are slow because they're not riding. Remember that. Don't accommodate them. They need to do the work. They don't need to necessarily get as fast as the fastest riders in your group, but they need to show up, and then you split it up. They can be B, Group C, whatever. But if they're not showing up, don't pay attention to them. I've been getting all these direct messages. I told them, don't send me any more direct messages. Show up at the ride. You're spending too much time on the computer. That's why you're slow. Get on your bike. So I'm sitting in the back, and when Laura pulled off, she got behind me. And then shortly after that, as soon as we began to climb, I told her to come in front of me. And that's what you want to do. If you're not going to do the effort that the group is doing, don't leave a gap. Let the riders behind you know that, hey, why don't you come in front of me, because I'm, you know, or when you're ready to pull out the line, stay there, move over and wave them up so they can still use your draft as they come up on that wheel that you're leaving. But don't just sit there knowing that you don't want to do that pace and let the gap open. That's not cool. I mean, unless, you know, you're going so hard and you can't think through it, that's fine. But generally, no. If you know you're not going to do the pace, you've made that decision, then you go ahead and let the other riders come up and get in front of you. You sit on the back, so then you can just roll off whenever you choose to. Because nothing has changed here. The pace is the same. I just did not want to go up that climb at 22 miles an hour or whatever it is we're doing like 22, 23. I was like, no, I need to back off, because the effort is going up, because we're trying to hold a speed close to what we're doing back there on a changing grade, so to speak. Because the grade starts to change. I love this road. I come out here by myself as often as I can. I mean, it's far from my home, but I really like this road. And it's always quiet once you get out here. I don't like that back highway we were on, because the speeds of the cars are higher. But out here, this is a residential area. You can see all the homes and farms, so the speeds are a little lower. So the speed is going down to about probably 18 miles an hour almost, because of this grade. I think it's like, it says 2%. Yeah, about 2% is about right. Then it goes to certain spots that will kick up higher. Now it says 3 point. So it starts to change. And what ends up happening is people don't want to back off. When they're pushing, they just continue to push as the grade goes up. What that does is you're basically putting more force into the pedals. And unless that's your plan, you end up going outside of the zone you're in. As you can see, Paul's almost at 170 beats per minute. He was like 140 a little while ago. So you decide, okay, is this what I want to do at this time? You decide. And then sometimes you're in the mood, yeah, you just sit in and you do it. You know, it's fun if that's what you plan to do. So, you know. And when you have not been training consistently, you don't want to jump into the highest efforts, the highest intensities, until you've established a good base. Because it hurts your recovery and your improvement. So you see a lot of riders will ride great one week, then the next week they're off the back. Those are the riders who don't have a solid foundation. There's no consistency. In a little bit, he's going to stand. I think that's when I'll go ahead and wave Laura over. get off the pace. I'm like, I don't need to push it that much. So right as they're going downhill, I had pulled off the back of the thing right before they got to that bump that he went over. And in a little bit, I think he's going to stand on the second one. At this point, I've let them go. I just held my pace. I can still see them, but I'm going at a lot less effort so I can enjoy my climb. So this is the second climb. So he's standing on this one. The speed will drop because they came down that hill, so it's like 20 miles an hour. This kicks up a little bit. It'll probably be like 18. And then I think after this one, he pulls off, and then Paul takes over. So remember, when you ride with a group, unless you're trying to really push yourself and you're feeling fresh, don't kill yourself because it will just set you back. So he flicked his elbow. Paul's going to pull through.
Nice one, thank you. Oh my God.
That's Juan back there.
Take a recovery lap, Paul.
Then Paul, they take a recovery lap. So what happens when you push too early? You don't enjoy it as much, and you don't really improve as much if you don't have a base. And the next day, you're just so tired. And then you got to rest more, and then you lose more training time. So remember, get your K's in. Keep all the doctors fired. But most of all, listen to yourself. Check your ego. Don't let the group push you. Use the group for your benefit. Let nothing stop you from getting your K's in.